Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. I hope you're having a wonderful day as always. In today's video, I'm going to guide you guys through the form I-751 step by step. If you have not already watched a video that I have on my channel talking about this form and everything you need to know about it, definitely check it out. In today's video, I'm simply going to be guiding you through the form. One of the questions that I do get is, can you file this form online? At this time, no, you cannot file this form online. You must file it by mail and mail it to the appropriate lockbox facility. You can find the lockbox facilities on the I-751 webpage on the USCIS site, and it will tell you where exactly you will have to send this application. Now, let's get started. First and foremost, as you can see, this form expired on December 31st, 2019. I often get a question about what to do when the form is expired, and the answer is that you simply have to use whatever form edition is available on the USCIS site. Per usual, this top part is not to be filled out, and we will start right here. In part 1, here you want to provide your full name. So this is the information about the conditional resident. So you will fill out your full name, any other names that you have used before, any other names or different spellings of your name, you may want to indicate here. If you don't have enough space, if you have changed your name many times, you want to use the additional information page on the last page of this application to fill in any of this additional information that doesn't fit. Next, moving on, you want to indicate your date of birth, your country of birth, your country of citizenship or nationality. Please remember that as a permanent resident, you're not yet a citizen or a national of the United States, so you still have to indicate your country of citizenship. Next, you want to fill in your alien registration number, your A number, and you are unsure what your A number is. It is listed on your green card. Next, indicate your social security number, your USCIS account number if you have one. If you don't have one, that's perfectly fine. You can leave this area blank. You will only really have a USCIS online account number if you have filed any petitions or applications online before. Moving on, indicate your marital status. If you're still married, date of marriage, so when this marriage occurred, place where it occurred. Next, you want to answer this question. If the marriage through which you gain conditional residence has ended, provide the date it ended. So again, date of divorce or date of death of your spouse, you will have to indicate here. If it doesn't apply to you, you can just say not applicable. Next, you want to write the date when your conditional permanent residency expires, and this date is listed on your green card. Moving on. Here you want to write your mailing address, and it asks you if your current physical address, so the address where you actually reside, is different from your mailing address. If it's not, you just have to answer no. However, if your actual physical address and your mailing addresses are different, you will have to answer yes and answer this question below about your physical address. If these two are the same, you simply have to answer no and leave this area blank. Moving on, here you will have to answer a few important questions, so obviously answer them truthfully and honestly. If you are in removal, deportation, or rescission proceedings, you have to answer yes or no. If you had paid a fee to anyone other than attorney in connection to this petition, you will have to answer yes or no. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure what this question presumes. Next, answer this question. If you have ever been arrested, detained, charged, indicted, or fined, or imprisoned for breaking any law in the United States or abroad, you will have to answer yes or no. And in this case, it asks you to provide detailed explanation on the additional information page of what exactly this violation or arrest was, and you will need to provide evidence such as any arrest records, police records, court documents. And the form I-751 instructions do list out what are some of the specific things that you will need to provide. One of the frequent questions is, do traffic violations count? And no, traffic violations do not count. However, if you have been ever arrested or detained for a traffic violation, or if you had to pay a fine over $500, you will need to provide that evidence. Moving on, question 21, if you are married, is this a different marriage than the one through which you gained your conditional resident status? You'll have to answer yes or no. If you answered yes, this application presumes that you're filing it by yourself without your spouse, and you will need to provide extensive evidence of that, such as your divorce decree and evidence of any new marriage that you have entered since becoming a conditional resident. If you're still married to your spouse, then you can answer no. Question 22, have you resided at any other address since you became a permanent resident? So you'll have to answer yes or no. And there is a high chance that you answered yes because over the past couple of years, you may have moved since becoming a permanent resident. So here, if you answered yes, you will have to list out any additional addresses where you have resided since becoming a permanent resident in the additional information page. So I will scroll all the way down to show you how I filled it out. So here, again, last part, additional information page. Here you will just have to indicate what page number, part number, and item number you are referring to. So that was page 2, part 1, question 22. So here I indicated any other addresses. If you had more than one, you can fill them all out here. Moving on, question 23. Is your spouse or parent spouse currently serving with or employed by the U.S. government and serving outside the United States? So you will have to answer yes or no. If you answered yes, refer to the form instructions because there are some additional things that you will have to provide. Okay, moving on to part 2. This is just simply biographic information, nothing new, same thing as you filled out on previous applications. Okay, moving on to part 3, basis for petition. So here you will see that you have two options, either joint filing or individual filing. And if you are still currently married to your spouse and you're filing this petition together, you will have to answer 1A, yes, I'm filing with my spouse. However, if you're filing individually, such as if your spouse passed away or you got a divorce, or maybe you were a subject of abuse or whatever it was, and you have to file this form by yourself, you will have to select one of these options. And like I mentioned again, you want to make sure that if any of these options apply to you, that you file, especially in the case of divorce or anything that is mentioned right here, you definitely want to make sure that you consult with an experienced immigration attorney who can help you file this form and all evidence together properly to help you file this form on your own. Part 4, here you will be providing the information about the U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident spouse. If you are filing as a child separately, such as if you selected option 1B here, this will be the information about your step-parent through whom you gained your conditional residence. So you want to answer what the basis of the relationship is. Next, you want to provide the full name of this person, of this spouse, their date of birth, their social security number, and an A number if they have one. Next, you want to indicate their physical address. Moving on to part 5, here you want to provide information about your children. So any children that you have, you will have to fill them all out here. Provide their full name, date of birth, if they have an A number. And you also have to answer 2 questions after each child. Is this child living with you? Yes or no. The second question is this child applying with you? So if your child is also a conditional permanent resident and they became a conditional permanent resident at the same time as you did, and they're also removing conditions based on your own petition, you will have to indicate yes. However, if your children are not conditional permanent residents, they will not be applying with you, and you will just have to answer no. Moving on to part 6. This part is asking whether or not you require accommodations or anybody as part of this petition requires any accommodations. So if you as the conditional resident require accommodations, you can answer yes or no. If your spouse has a disability or an impairment and requires an accommodation, you can answer yes or no. If any of the children that we just listed require accommodations, you can answer yes or no. Specify what these accommodations are, such as do you need an ASL interpreter or whatever it may be, you can list it out here. Next, moving on to part 7, and this is very, very important. So in this case, it's asking you to provide the petitioner's statement, contact information, signature, etc. So please be aware that in this particular form, Form I-751, you, the conditional resident, are the petitioner. This may get confusing because you may be thinking that the petitioner is the person who filed the I-130 petition for you a few years ago. But no, in this case, you, the conditional resident, are called the petitioner because you're petitioning for yourself to have these conditions removed. Make sure that you read this part carefully. Select whether or not you can read and understand English, or if you required help of an interpreter. If you used an interpreter, if somebody interpreted it for you, please indicate right here what language they interpreted to. Next, if you have used a preparer or an attorney to complete this application for you, you'll have to select 2. Here, write their full name and select whether they are or are not an attorney or an accredited representative. Next, write your phone number and your email. In this part right here, after printing out this application, you will have to print your name using a black ink pen. So write your name here. Don't use cursive. Make sure that it's legible and clear. Read this declaration, read the statement and agreement, and on the next page, provide your signature and date. Please make sure that you are signing this petition in pen. Moving on to part 8. So in this case, you will be filling out the information of your spouse whom you have listed in part 4. Select whether or not they read and understood English or used an interpreter. Same thing here. If they used services of a preparer or an attorney, same thing here. Their phone number and their email. Moving on here. Print their name, again in pen, and at the very end, right here, have them sign this petition. Again, so this petition is being prepared together with your spouse. If you're filling this out on your own, such as in the case of your spouse's death or divorce, then obviously this part will be left blank. But again, make sure that you're consulting with an experienced attorney who will help you prepare this document. Next, if you used an interpreter and you indicated them earlier, provide their information here. If one of you was interpreting to the other while filling out this application together, you can also list yourself as an interpreter. If you filled this application on your own, but your spouse did sign it, you don't have to list yourself as a preparer. And that was the end of this application. Alright, so I hope you found this video useful. Please give this video a thumbs up so more people can see it. Let me know if you have any additional questions. Again, please make sure that you watch my video to see what kind of evidence you will need to submit with this application. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. and I hope to see you in my next videos. Bye!